How are you guys? Sorry, I had a mishap with my calendar today.
Vittorio, thanks a lot for being here with us. I don't think we need any introduction. I already introduced you as a VP and also a maker of focaccia. So I mute myself and I let you speak. And again, thanks a lot for taking your time to talk to us.
My pleasure. Let me open a presentation. So I'll tell you a little bit about my story and talk about myself, which is my favorite topic. And then we can take questions and go to wherever you guys want to take this. Let me just open a few slides that I can use to help me. So basically, my name is Vittorio Viarengo. I started a software company, a small software company back in Italy in 92, 93. And then in 98, I sold it to an American company. So that's kind of unusual to start a software company in Italy and then kind of sell it to an American company. And then I moved to the US in 98 and started my career in the US. And what I realized is that this is really, and no disrespect to any other places in the world, but the Boston first, and especially Silicon Valley, where I moved after 3 years, it's really like, it's like being in Florence or Petersburg during the Renaissance or whatever is the peak of those cities, right? All the artists are in Florence, and you cannot help it by becoming, the best at what you do because you're amongst the best in your field. And kind of Silicon Valley feels like that, right? So what I learned once I started to came to the US, I realized that my Italian way of thinking was completely inappropriate because I was thinking, okay, this company bought my company and I'm going to work in this company. The company was Object Design. I'm going to work here for 40 years, whatever, and then I'm gonna get my pension, retire, and life is good. And little did I know that when you're here in this environment, and you start to meet people, and people start to know you and what you bring to the table, then it's like being a soccer player or an athlete. They come and look for you to build their teams. And so, since I moved to the US, and it was always my choice. I never got fired. I was at Object Design. Then I went to BA System, Oracle, Vmware the first time, Mobile Iron, Sky High, Mcafee, and now I'm back at Vmware. And so, in average, every job was around 3 to 4 years, more or less. And that's kind of completely different from what I thought I would get myself into coming from the kind of more European mentality. And so real quick, I'll walk you through this because in each of these jobs, I learned incredible lessons that I'll try to share with you guys today. So Giancarlo, how much time do we have? An hour?
Okay, so we have about, if it is okay for you, if we don't exploit too much of your time, about 40-45 minutes. So about
okay, perfect. Okay, just so I can pace myself. Okay, so when I joined Object Design, when I thought I would retire there, I did a conference, a user conference, and this guy named Adam Bosworth, who was the right-hand man for Bill Gates and the Microsoft in the 90s, came to the user conference, saw me presenting, and then he started to call me every 2 months, say, Vittorio, you need to come work for me. You need to come work for me. It's like, why is this guy bothering me? So eventually I caved and I joined his company. So he created left Microsoft, created a company, and then sold it to BA System. So just to give you a sense, Adam Bosworth built Microsoft Access. Sorry, you're too young to remember, but he built Internet Explorer 5, which put Netscape out of business. So he was a god of software. I mean, and he's the guy that invented XML islands in i5 in Internet Explorer, which became the fundamental technology for Ajax, which revolutionized the internet, right? By making it much more interactive. So that was the guy. And so then I joined him. And by the way, the other thing that I learned is to if you don't take risk and embrace change, you're not going to grow your career here in the US, because people like that here. So and it creates opportunities. So I was the vice president of a public company here at Object Design, and I took the job as a senior product manager at BEA, because not only BEA had Adam Boswell and all the people that Adam Boswell worked with, the people that wrote Visual Basics. I mean, these guys, Microsoft Office. I mean, it was incredible. But a BEA system was kind of the first application server company that built server-side Java containers, not containers, but yeah, kind of J2E containers to run websites. So in 1998, 99, 2000, 2001 was one of the hottest company in the world. So they had all the people that kind of were involved with the creation of Java. So it was an incredible team. And so I took three steps down just to join that team because I just want to be part of that incredible group of people. And then within 2 years, I got promoted back to vice president of it. So Object Design was a $100 million company. BA was $1 billion company. Then from there, I went to Oracle, mostly because I needed a green card, and they made it easy for me to get a green card. But even at Oracle, I learned a bunch of great things. Like I presented to Larry Ellison like 4 times. I did 2 acquisitions with them. And so I learned how you kind of scale something to like 50,000 employees and 100,000 customers. So that was a good experience. Then I went to VMware. And I'm pretty sure you guys familiar with VMware? VMware is a virtualization company. So they were, during the heydays, they were growing like crazy. And that's where I learned, again, working with incredible people. Like the CEO was Paul Maritz, who is the guy that actually built Windows. When he was at, I don't know if you know the story of Windows, Microsoft Windows, but Microsoft Windows was a project between IBM and Microsoft in the 90s or even the 80s. And then at some point, Paul Maritz was in charge, told Bill Gates that the project was not going anywhere. And so they split. And IBM built OS2 and Microsoft built Microsoft Windows. And the rest of history, right? OS2 died, and Microsoft Windows is still around. So Paul Maritz was the CEO at that company. Anyway, and then from there I had a great job. We were making very good money. I was doing great things like presenting in front of 20,000 people at a user conference. That was really fun. But when I look back, when you're living in Silicon Valley, you cannot help it, but you want to have an IPO, an initial public offering, because there's it's like winning the Premier League, right? So if you take a company public, that's where you say, okay, I've done it. And so I took a huge pay cut to join Mobile Iron. The Mobile Iron was, let me give me a second here. Mobile Iron was a company that was doing $28 million a year. So when I joined, we did 26, 60, 100. We went public to the NASDAQ. So we rang the bell, all the good stuff. And then 130. And then unfortunately, Microsoft came in with a free product and they killed us. So I made no money, unfortunately. I mean, you never work for the money, right? Maybe something we're going to talk about later. But you always work for, mostly for me is the team that you work with and having an impact. But because I took such a big salary cut between VMware and Mobile Iron, I was hoping for an exit there, and that didn't work out. But I learned incredible. Like I was part of the team that wrote the document that you used to go public. And when you have that experience, then you becomes. I literally get at least one call a week for an executive job in hot startups that they want to have somebody that has that experience. So again, taking risk and taking pay cuts and taking step down in your careers often pays off here in the US. And by the way, when we look at a resume, somebody that has worked at HP, Hewlett Packard, or a big company, IBM for like 10, 20 years, or somebody that has a background that every 2-3 years they've changed, they've done different things, we always take the person that has more experience, different companies, has the precedence compared to somebody that's worked in the same company for a long time, just to give you the sense of the mentality. Anyway, so from there, then I went to another stuff. So when I was at Mobile Iron, I met a bunch of VC, venture capital, because up until then, I was always in bigger companies that were already public, other than mine. And so this was the first time that I interacted with venture capitals. And venture capital, this is something that it's a misconception. Venture capital in Silicon Valley have trillions of dollars to invest, right? And everybody thinks that these guys are going around trying to find great ideas. In reality, what they're looking for is great people. So they always look for great people. And then they also look, of course, at markets and ideas, but mostly they're looking at people that have a track record of getting it done, getting things done. And so at Mobile Iron, I met Sequoia. I don't know if you heard of Sequoia. Sequoia is #1 and #2 a venture capital firm in Silicon Valley. We had Northwestern. We had the other one. Anyway, so we have some of the best VCs. And so when I left Mobile Iron, I wasn't on the radar. And so Sequoia was an investor of SkyHigh, and SkyHigh was growing. They were doing cloud security and they were growing, but they kind of hit a little bit of a wall. It was slowing down a little bit. And so they changed the management team. And so they recruited me. And by the way, when you get one thing that happens in Silicon Valley that in Italy is frowned upon, we don't like it, is when you get recommended, right? So you get the recommendation, say you should really talk to this person. So recommendation in Silicon Valley really works, but they work the opposite that they work in Italy. You want to recommend good people. And even if you get in with the recommendation, so I was brought in by a venture capital that was basically an owner of the company, you still have to interview, an actual formal interview with 15, 20 people in the company before they give you a job like that. Because when you get an executive job in a startup, you typically get between 0.5, 1 or 2%, depending on where you are in the history of the company. You get 0.5 to 2% of the company. So if you get a company that is worth $1 billion, they give you, of course, over time, maybe $3, $4, $5 million on paper. And so they really scrutinize how they hire people. And so at SkyHigh, after less than a year, we got acquired by Mcafee. And Mcafee, so we went to Mcafee for 2 years trying to help changing the company. We didn't really succeed. And Mcafee was too slow and old-fashioned for me. And so I got promoted to CMO there. Became the CMO, Chief Marketing Officer. And then I left, and now I joined VMware again to help them transform, because VMware is known for their virtualization, and now we're trying to pivot the company towards, speaking of change, towards cloud. And so that's where I am right now. So anyway, that's my background. And then I can quickly go through some few things that I learned throughout my career, if that's okay. Any question? Okay, so let me talk about values and mission. So every good company in Silicon Valley that they spend, in fact, I'm advising a good startup right now, and I just talked to them about writing this down. So when you create a company, you always want to have very clear what is the vision of the company. So how is the world going to look like when you're done doing what you're trying to do, right? So if you're Google, I think their motto is, what is it? To organize the world's information, right? So that when you hire people, they share the same mission, right? The same vision. And the vision is where the world is going to be if you are successful, and the mission is what you do every day when you come to work, right? And the reason why this is important is, as being proven, from scientific research and psychologists, is that people are motivated by the why. Everybody knows what they do. right? If you go to any organization in the world, say, what do you do? Everybody knows what they do. We make cars, or we ship goods, or whatever it is, right? Most people know how they do it, right? But the things that really appeals to the more visceral part of your brain is the why. Because if you understand the why, then you're going to figure out the how, and you're going to be motivated. And so that's why when you build a company, you always spend a lot of time on defining and enforcing what is the vision, why we're coming to work every day, because that gets people rallied around a common mission, and you perform much better than otherwise. So this, for example, are the values at Mcafee. When I was at Mcafee, right? The values were, we put the customers at the core, we achieve excellence with speed and agility, we are inclusive. Not right now in the US, it's a big, there's a huge push for diversity, people with diverse background, for women, for minority. And so it's become one of the values of many companies to try to have a diverse, because it's been proven again scientifically that a diverse team performs better than a more uniform team. Anyway, so, and then you can see some good ones, some bad ones. Like this one is a really, really bad one from Toyota. This is an example where this is not the founders at work, but this is some stupid agency or consultant, right? To attract and attain customers with high value product and services and the most satisfying ownership experience in America. What the hell is that? What the hell do you build? You build freaking cars, right? So compare that to Tesla, where Tesla, they want to have a impact on a green, they want to turn the earth green, right? So, I mean, so you're coming to work, what are you doing? You're, I'm building great high value products. It's not really motivating, right? But you're coming to work to save the planet. That's a much bigger vision, right? And then people have fun with this. This is some of the more fun values that you find in some cool companies, like be foolish, collaborative, innovative, etc., etc. I'll send you the slides so you get some of this material, because we don't have time to go deep in a lot of these. Okay, so the other thing that I learned, and unfortunately most people learn this too late in their career, is the role of the manager, right? And to me, the role of a good manager is really simple. It's, you have to hire great people, ideally, if you can, better than you, which is not easy, and then get the hell out of the way. Just leave, give them room. Because especially when you do innovation, if you hire great people and you tell them what to do, they're gonna peak, they're gonna be capped by your creativity, but what you can do, and not what they can do. And so one thing that is important to realize as you start to manage people, and this is how we are measured as leaders, is, are you hiring great people and are you empowering them to do their best work? That's how we get measured in good companies, right? And so, and the reason why that is that empowering your people is the only way to scale a business. There's no, now, if you're doing the same thing over and over again, a routine type of work, sure, then you need management that tells you what to do, how to do it, when to do it, and all that. But if you are breaking new ground and you're innovating, by definition, you need to hire people and then empower them to go and take risks and do the right thing. And this is what I learned. This has really hit me when I met Adam Bosworth, is that these people are obsessed. The good leaders are obsessed in finding the talent and in other people, and trying to exploit as much as possible. In fact, one of the key things that I think I have something here in later, is that you have to be a relentless recruiter, and then you have to focus on what people are good at instead of trying to fix their shortcomings, right? Because you get so much more out of people if you try to put them in jobs where they can exercise their strength versus trying to fix their shortcomings, because most people don't change anyway. And so that's another thing that we unfortunately we learn too late in our life. And so basically the role of a manager is really to lead the team, right? Manage the vision, right? Kind of manage what the vision is, make sure people are aligned to the vision, and then let them execute. So this is something that I find very different, especially with my limited understanding of the like our job, work that's done in Italy, for example, right? Where there isn't such a focus on the team, and especially on young people. So one thing that let's see if I have it here somewhere. Yeah, so basically one thing that we do religiously here in Silicon Valley is we always look for young, unexperienced people, because if you work in a fast-moving world, experience becomes a liability. The more experience you have in a sector, the more obsolete you are, because you're doing things the things that worked 4 or 5 years ago and not what works now. And so you always want to build teams that have a good mix of different backgrounds, but also junior people and more senior people. And when we hire somebody junior, this is something that is completely opposite from in the most culture. I think that I've seen a little bit of in some more upcoming culture in Asia. I see that embracing this as well. But I've never been in Russia. I'm sorry, I don't understand the culture very well there, so I cannot make any comparison there. But when we hire somebody junior, we don't put them in a corner waiting for them to mature. We put them right in the middle of things, because when you are 20, that's where your brain works the best. And so when we have somebody that is smart and works hard, we want to put them in the middle of things and give them as much responsibility as they can take, so that they can have a bigger impact as possible on the company. And so this is kind of counterintuitive, right? And we do this all the time. I constantly have conversation with people working for me saying, hey, we just hired Dan. Great. Are you pushing him? Are you giving him the opportunity to make mistakes? Are you giving him the opportunity to have an impact, right? And then if we can, as soon as we can, we promote them. We give them more responsibility if they're good, right? And that's why careers in the US really, like it happened to me and it happens to a lot of people, they really take off very fast, because the more you work and the more you're willing to take risks and get teams to follow you, and the more responsibilities you're gonna get. And we talk about this, right? The reason why we obsess about the team is that, that's what we see, that the people that put the money in companies they're looking for the good people, because good people will fix bad ideas, right? But bad people with good ideas, bad teams with good ideas, and you can use a soccer football analogy here, right? You can have the best strategies in the world. If you don't have the right athletes on the field, you're not going to win. But if you have the right athletes on the field with a bad strategy, they're gonna figure it out as they go and win the game anyway. And so the one thing that we look for when we hire people, we look for people that are smart and get shit done, right? So you want to have those two characteristics. And the smart is not hard to figure out, right? You can do tests, you can have coding questions if you're hiring developers. And to get shit, if they have a good track record of getting stuff done, you basically have to do background checks. And here, you're in Silicon Valley, we are one or 2 degrees of separation from anybody. So whenever we hire somebody, we always do background checks, not with the references that they gave us, but with people that we know have worked with them to understand if they're good at executing. One thing that is changing right now is that in the past we over-rotated towards like smart. Sometimes we even put up with people that maybe were not super nice because they're smart. But now there is a much more, we're much more focused on the emotional intelligence more than just the IQ, because it's been proven again scientifically and with stats that the people that make good leaders and the people that hire better, that create better teams are the ones that have higher emotional intelligence, right? And so we now focus more on these things that just the pure EQ. And what we found is that typically, as I said, people with the high IQ, so super smart, tend to become great individual contributors, versus people with have high EQ, they tend to become better leaders and of bigger teams. Here's the thing that I talked about earlier, right? When we hire, we look for attitude versus skills and knowledge, because knowledge can be acquired, but you have to have the right attitude. You have to have the right predisposition to work hard and take risk and that. So that's why I often in my career, I hire people that have never done a job or that don't have a, as long as I saw that spark, that motivation, because people that are motivated, they go the extra mile compared to somebody that knows how to do a job, but is not super motivated anymore. And this is a universal rule when you're hiring. You know how in America, we gave grades in school with A, B, C, D, E, F, right? And so we have this thing, and we use that for people. We say, okay, that's an A player, that's a B player, that's a C player. I know sometimes it's a little harsh, but you know, that's what it is. That's how we think about people. And wait a second. And so when we interview, we have this rule, but good people tend to hire good people, and mediocre people tend to hire bad people. And the reason why that is that it's multiple reasons. But if you have an A, like a good candidate being interviewed by a B person, he will not join the company, right? So here we have so many opportunities for great jobs that we get to choose where we go work if you're good, right? And so if you're an A player, you don't want to go and work with companies that have B players, because you want to, if you are Ronaldo, you're not going to go and work and get join a team that doesn't have a chance to win, right? And conversely, if you're a B player and you're interviewing an A player, sometimes you get insecure about yourself, and so you tend not to hire them. And so that's why when you interview, you always try to have your best team interviewing people. Otherwise, then the quality of the people goes down. And again, you have to realize that here, when we build a team, the Americans and people in Silicon Valley always think that they're going to build a company, the next Google, that they're going to change the world. And that's why they're so obsessed about finding the best people. And sometimes when I hear myself talking about this thing, if I were listening to myself, I say, oh my God, this guy is crazy. What is he talking about? But this is how it works here. And when you see companies that start to settle for B players, and typically it's bigger companies, that's where the company typically stops growing. And they start to hire, lower the bar, and some Bs snake in, and then the Bs start to hire Cs, and then it's the end of that company. That's why if you to this day, if you want to get a job at Google, oh my God, it's so freaking hard. I mean, the interview process, which is a little random, but it's very, very selective, because they don't want to lower the bar. Some fun thing. And when we find good people in Silicon Valley, and before COVID and after COVID, this is how they treat them. So we have offices and perks and facilities and besides the salaries and the perks. I mean, just to give you a sense, my daughter just got hired by a company as an entry job in marketing. She makes $75,000 a year. An engineer coming out of college that get recruited by any of these companies in Silicon Valley is going to make 120 under 30, and within 5 years going to make $200,000, right? So cost of living is high, but when you find good engineers, especially engineers, you know, lots of money, but then you have offices with, you know, where you can play games, you know, you can express yourself, you know, can play music, you get free massages, you get the dentist coming to your door, you get free food, you get, I mean, it's bizarre. I mean, it's just incredible how we treat, especially the engineers, because we know, because we don't want them to leave. When you, Google doesn't fire anybody ever because they have so many projects that they measure people based on their ability to keep the engineers in their team. That's how valuable we think that engineers and data scientists and in general people or salespeople, whoever builds the product or sells the product, they always get the best perks. And it's sometimes too much, right? So this is before COVID, right? COVID, everybody understands this, but before COVID, you have to tell American, I think it's similar probably in your culture too, but you know, hardworking people that all they think about is work. So they have to, these are actual signs that I've seen in the cafeterias of companies in the US, where they're telling people, if you're sick, stay home, stop working, because Americans, they need to go to work. As I said, there is now a change. There are people realizing that balanced people are more productive. So there's a more appreciation now for people that are more balanced, that have hobbies outside. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember Atari, the computer Atari. The founder of Atari did a string of successful startups, and he only hired engineers that had a hobby, because he found that people that had a hobby outside of work were the most innovative and creative engineers at work. And that's why I said, you know, it's this culture is a little changing in Silicon Valley. There's more appreciation for people being more balanced. Let's see. So one other thing is, when you hire people and you have great people, you give them the perks and all the things that we talked about. The other thing is, how do you motivate it? So we talk about the why, and which is important, right? But then again, statistically speaking, the reason why people join company or leave company, the number one reason is the person they work for. Is this person somebody that helps them grow, that gets out of the way, that gives them the air cover, gives them the resources that they need to be successful, that cares about their careers? That's the number one reason why people, and right now, one of the reasons why I came back to VMware is that I'm in you know, my last probably couple of years of my career, because I think I'm pretty much done. And so I was looking for somebody that I could work for, that was sane and that didn't make my life miserable. So I chose VMware, where I know the executives, I know the person I work for. And now all I'm focusing on is recruiting people that I like, that they're great people, that are not, they don't have an edge to them, so that we can come to work and have fun and have an impact. The second thing is, are we doing impactful work? Do we have a chance to change the world, right? Because most smart people want to do meaningful work that has an impact in the marketplace. And then the third thing is the money. The money has to be right, because you know that people want to be treated fairly, and money is typically not a problem in Silicon Valley. But when people, right now, I have a person in my team that I asked her, why you're coming to work every day? And she said, well, the money is good. And I'm worried, because if you just come to work for the money, you're not going to do your best work in most cases. And so I need to work with her to make sure that she's also doing good work. And I think the reason why she's frustrated is that VMware now has got pretty big, and so it's got a little slow. And so we need to look at ways to become a little more faster. Anyway, so that's, okay. So speaking about motivation, I think I'm gonna maybe close on this, and I'll take some questions. So how do we get to that place that keeps us motivated and happy, right? And so, this framework, I learned this framework in multiple training. I just did one thing that we do routinely for executives and employees. We do a 360 review. Well, the 360 review is that you anonymously go and interview in a very structural, formal way, people that work for you, work with you, and manage you to get a third-party view of how you perform and how people perceive you, right? And so in one of these things that I just did for VMware, they talk about this framework again, which I think is insightful. So I'll share it with you. So basically, it talks about these three spheres: competence, organizational needs, and passion, right? So, and the idea is that if you have a competence, right, you know how to program, you know how to program a computer, you know how to do marketing, and there is a company that needs you, right? Congratulations, you got yourself a job, right? It may not be super exciting, but you got a job and you get paid. If you have a passion and that's your competence, well, that's the, I have a passion to play guitars, but I really suck at it, right? So nobody pays me for it. So that's a hobby, right? Now, if you have a passion and somebody actually pays you to develop that passion, this is really rare, right? This is very rare. Then you grow. I've done this before. I hired people that had a passion, that I saw a spark, and I gave them a job that I never done, and I paid them for that, and they did great, right? But it's really rare. And now, where you want to be as a person, to be engaged and be paid well and be happy at work, you want to be in the middle, right? That's the perfect job, right? You have a competence, but this is your passion, and people pay you for it. And those are the people that go Monday morning to work with a smile on their face, and everybody hates them, say, why are they so happy? And so the question is, and you guys are in a college student, so the question is like, how the hell do I get there, right? Because if I get there, man, I make money and I have fun. And so people typically tell you, follow your passion, and that will be the key. And actually, there are actually great books written about this topic, like Talent is Overrated and So Good They Cannot Ignore You. They basically say, no, follow your passion is bad advice, because the way that passion works, really, unless you're delusional, is that you become good at something, and that becomes your passion. And that rings so true to me, because, for example, as Giancarlo said, I have a passion for baking. Well, screw that. I didn't have a passion for baking when I was growing up, but my dad made me work in the bakery, and I was motivated, so I didn't want to just clean shit. And so I learned how to make the bread and make the pizza and all that, and I became good at it. And so now it's my passion. Yeah, I'm passionate because I'm very good at making freaking bread, right? And so if you are in college, or you want to get to that center, where you're gonna be happy, to me, you have to look for dreams or motivation. So what is your model? You're looking at somebody out there that is very engaged. Look at them and say, okay, I want to become like that person, right? You need to have a motivation, a model to follow. That will give you the motivation to put the hard work that allows you to become very, very good at something, right? And when you become very good at something, there is a huge difference, especially here in Silicon Valley, between the top 10% in whatever job you have. If you're a data scientist, for example, you're in the top 10%, you're going to make $500,000 a year right now with big data and AI and everything that's going on. So when you become good at something, not just if you become the top 5%, 10%, then you're really unlocking incredible opportunities. Now, once you have a competence, if that competence is valuable enough, you're going to find that is going to become your passion, right? So whenever you're doing that, you're going to be engaged and happy. And that, if you find somebody that needs that competence, then you get paid, and you are in that middle of the center. So that's let's see what yeah, that's pretty much some of the biggest lessons that I've learned. I went through them pretty quickly. You guys want to do some questions? I have other topics that I can cover about execution and but let's see. I'll send you the slides so you can have them for your background.
Thanks a lot, Vittorio. That was very, 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 very interesting and exciting. And now we have our first question from Marina. Marina?
Yeah, I'm here. Hello. I was interested over all the years of your experience, was there a lesson or situation that actually changed your worldview?
What was the what?
That changed your worldview.
Well, it's all these experiences, right? I had some incredible both mentors, like Adam Bosworth. I learned. I'll send you. Let's see. I wrote a letter to him once to thank him for everything that I learned from him. And he's actually not a great mentor, meaning he doesn't have the patience to teach people, but just by working with him and observing him at work, oh my God, I learned so much. And then I also, now I'm learning more from reverse mentors. So people that are young and they're more plugged in, because the moment you start to look at young people with like, I don't know what they do, it's like, oh, they're on their phone all day long. With that attitude, you're dead, you're done, right? So that's why I always, and I don't always agree with everything new, right? But I always have young people, junior people around me that help me stay fresh. So to answer your question, I think it's the people most than anything that change and still changing. I'm still changing my point of view, because you always learn new things. Oh God, I sometimes I disagree with somebody in my team, and I go and say, do it your way. And I hope that I'm wrong, so that we do better and I learn something new.
Yes, thank you.
Any question? Don't be shy. I mean,
Yeah. I think I'm next. Hello. Correct me if I'm wrong, but as I get from your LinkedIn profile and from your presentation, if I didn't mess up with all these job titles, that last 10 or even 15 years, you've been working in the field of marketing somehow. And so basically my question is that from your experience, how important is it for a developer to have marketing and presentational skills for his, for example, career growth? Is it necessary for a developer to be able to sell himself, to present it in a good way? Or is it just enough to be, nerd, have good technical skills, and that will be enough?
I love this question. First of all, you need to be excellent at what you do, first of all, because when you're dealing with technical people, at the end of the day, they're going to figure out if you're good or not. But I am obsessed with communication. And so you forget about marketing. Fuck marketing. It's about communication. You need to be able to communicate your value and your ideas. And so what I would invest in is to really learn. And by the way, if you care, I have, if you look for my name and then how to give great presentations, you'll find I have a 20 minutes video where I talk about the things that I learned that work, that I think work. Again, it's always work in progress. So to me, it's not about marketing yourself, but it's about always communicating good enough so that people see the value. And I've seen people, and that's why I love this question. I've seen people that are great, but they're not great at communicating. And so if you're not surrounded by great people that look for the value, then you don't get credit for the value that you have. That's why I have a great person in my team right now. She's heads down, she's working super hard. And I told her, Betty, you got to stop working so hard. And now that you achieve so many great things, you need to make sure that people know about it. Otherwise, you're going to do a disservice to yourself. So you don't want to do that too much, because otherwise you don't have enough value built. But invest in learning how to communicate effectively. And that doesn't, by the way, like everything comes by doing. You have to do it, deliberate practice, do it, and put yourself out there until you get good, because nobody is born with the ability to communicate just because.
Thank you very much.
Okay, hello, I'm next. My question is, what values do you think helps to improve productivity within a team? Like, what are like some key values that you can highlight that help teams improve their productivity? Yeah.
So if the company already exists, it has to me, it boils down to the why. You need to understand what is the why, the mission of the company, and then what is the why of that of each individual, and make sure that it's never 100% match, but those two things needs to be as aligned as possible, right? And so then you get the best out of people. The other thing is you got to understand your people. You have to spend time understanding your people, because once you understand your people, then you need to figure out how you put them in a position where they exercise their pillar strength as much as possible, right? So because that's what makes people happy. If you look at, again, scientifically speaking, what makes people happy is to be able to exercise their pillar strength every day and share the result of what they achieve with somebody they love. Those are the two things that make people, that create happiness, right? Within whatever bounds you're born with, right? To stay up in the upper range of your happiness, you have to exercise your pillar strength. So for example, what are my pillar strength? I just did the freaking, God, what is it? Let me share with you. It's just crazy here how much we care about these things. Where is it? Okay, give me a second. I'll show you, just to show you that we don't just say these things, we actually practice them. Let's see, docs. Okay, let me share it. I just did this like 2 weeks ago. Here, so basically they tested me by interviewing 3 people that work for me, 3 people that work with me, 2 managers, and 3 other people. Okay, and they asked them questions around these 16 type of things. So, for example, displays high integrity, innovates, develop others, and so collaborates, etc., etc. And the square here is 75 percentile, and the triangle is 95% percentile, right? So if I were to hire myself and I had this information, I look at me and say, okay, this guy is somebody that likes to innovate, off the chart, right? Better than like 95%. It inspires others to achieve high performance. So apparently to your question, I'm pretty good at that. And develop other people. So what I'm doing, I'm gonna put this person in a place where it has a team and that needs to grow, right? And so if you look at the areas where I'm lower, I'm not gonna try to like fix this person and try to fix those things, right? I try to get them to exercise their strength. And we do this thing. I just did it for this lady that works for me, and she's R360, and then it gets bubbled up to like top level areas like this, like character, personal capabilities, focus on result, etc. She turns out to be super focused on results, but she's not very patient with other people and stuff like that. So I have 2 choices now. I can try to fix her and try to get her to be more collaborative and talk to other people and so on. Or I can put her in a place where she can absolutely keep executing and achieve incredible results. So my approach with her has been, let's do that. Let's use her for execution. But I also told her, look, if you want to progress your career, you need to be better collaborating with others. So I'm not going to try to fix you, but if you're motivated to improve, these are a few things you can work better with other people. Anyway, so the point is, find what is the goal of the company and the goals of the individual. As the more you have the individual's goals and motivation align with the companies, and the more motivated and happy they're going to be, and the better results you're going to get.
Okay, thank you.
Hello. Hello. I'm interested in how do you think how has the sphere of product management changed since you started working?
You mean what how the product management role has changed?
Yeah, like maybe there were some new responsibilities for product managers or
Yeah.
some trends.
Yeah. Well, the thing about, and I don't know if I'm answering your question right, but there is every time you change a role, there is always fear associated with it, and there's uncertainty, right, and doubt, and they call it the imposter syndrome, right? The reality is that everything in life that is worth pursuing comes with a dip, right? And that's where you grow the most. Whenever you are stretching yourself. I don't know, anybody of you is a musician? Any musician? Okay, you got musician. Any competitive athlete? Like you guys do sports and stuff? Okay, so people do music and compete. They know the value of deliberate practice, right? What is deliberate practice? Is practicing something to become better, but you just don't do it the same thing over and over again. You know what your limits are, and you keep pushing them, right? And so when you change job or you get a new product management job, I've done this 15 times in my career. There's always fear and uncertainty, but that's where you grow the most. As long as you're willing to learn new things and you're a lifelong learner, and you're smart and motivated, you're going to be fine. So there is this great book that is 80 pages, which I recommend if you have, it takes an hour to read. It's called The Dip from Seth Godin. And basically, what the summary of the book is that whenever you have something interesting to do in life, you're always going to go through a dip of uncertainty and learning and challenges and all that. And so you never want to quit in the dip, because if you quit here, you miss all the learning and you feel bad about yourself, right? So it's fine to quit here. And you look at the other side of the dip, say, nah, not for me. I'm doing that right now. I got some CEO job offers, right, to go into a small company and be a CEO, and I've seen that job close up, and I don't want to be working 120 hours a week and be completely consumed by the job, because I have other interests, and right now where I am in my career, I don't care, and so I'm not gonna go into the deep, right? But once you're in the deep, then you want to go up here, so you only want to go quit here or there, and this sometimes it's painful, but it's, to me, I am addicted to the dip. I am addicted to not knowing how to do something, put the effort to learn, and come out the other way knowing how to do it. From like simple things like doing stuff around the house, or like, that's why I love music, right? Music, you start and you don't know how to play a piece of music, and then you try it and you try and you try it, and eventually you get it. It's such it's the best feeling in the world, I think.
Thank you very much.
Hello, I watched an interview with you, and you praised Agile method and Scrum methodology a lot. And I wanted to ask, like, if everybody used Agile methodology, would it be better, or some variety is needed?
So I am a big believer in Scrum for every project that is new and breaks new ground. I don't think there is any other. Right now, as far as we know, there's no better way to build software or do any sort of project than Scrum. And for those of you who are not familiar with Scrum, Scrum is a methodology, project management methodology. It doesn't have to do necessarily with development. That breaks everything in 2 weeks interval, in 2 weeks sprint, where you have priorities just for those 2 weeks. You pick from the top, and I think the reason why that is number one, communication. It forces you every 2 weeks to communicate what are the priorities. And so you keep the team focused on what's important. 2, you empower the team, because although you set the priorities, the team decides where to cut the cut and who does what. Just a pick from the top. And 3, it allows you to converge towards the goal much faster, because you don't know what you don't know when you start the project. And by splitting it in steps of 2 weeks, always trying to have something that is shippable every 2 weeks, even if it's small, allows you to see something and say, oh crap, now that I see it, it doesn't work the way I thought. And now you can adjust. Under 2 weeks, then you can adjust. And every 2 weeks, everybody has a common understanding of where you are. So Scrum, I mean, every single freaking company in Silicon Valley does Scrum right now. I started Scrum early on in 95, 96, 2005, 2006. And I never look back, and I even use it in marketing.
Oh, thank you. Now I got it.
Okay. Hello. And what do you think, what is better for the company, like viral growth or gradual growth?
So it's so here in Silicon Valley, they only care about fast growth. Companies that grow slowly and profitable, nobody cares about them. They only care about exponential growth. With that, but that's not for everybody, right? Because if I put myself in the shoes of an Italian company, I work, sometimes I have conferences like this with Italian entrepreneurs. They say, oh, I have $1 million business, it's growing 5%, and we're profitable. We're profitable. And I say, and I'm thinking to myself, look, awesome, that's awesome for you. Here in Silicon Valley, nobody gives a shit. Because $1 million growing 5% is not worth the and that's why VCs, they invest in, like, say 10 companies, they expect 9 of them to go bankrupt. They model their business around 9 companies going out of business and 1 making it big. But when they make it big, right now we have so many companies that their valuation is like astronomical, like billions and billions of dollars, right? Because they are disrupting markets where they can see growth, especially now with subscription, right? Subscription model, it's a very easy to model, right? Because you have, say you're growing, you have $100 million and you're growing 20%. You just say how many customers you have, what is your retention rate, and you know exactly what is the baseline, and then how many new customers you put on top, and then you can model it all the way. And so that's why SaaS companies get huge valuation, because it's and if they're growing. And then, by the way, Salesforce.com, you guys know Salesforce.com? Or Amazon, freaking Amazon did not turn a profit for 25 years. 25 fucking years without turning a dime, losing money. Think about that. But they were growing, and they were, everybody's like, okay, these guys are going to dominate so the moment they're going to slow down investment, boom, the profit is going to be there. And then, of course, they invented AWS, and that's created all the profit in the world for them now. But for 25 years, 30 years, they didn't turn a single dime. Same for Salesforce.com. And investors gave them money. Their stock kept going up because it was a bet on future growth and future domination. So, and the answer is, in most parts of the world, you want to have a sustainable growth that allows you to, like, turn a profit and you can actually pay your debts, right? In Silicon Valley, there's money. There's no problem. As long as you have a business model that allows you to grow exponentially, that's what people care. I mean, a freaking Sky High, right? Sky High, we sold it to Mcafee, right? We sold it to Mcafee for almost $1 billion, $800 million. Our revenue was 50 million, and we burned $150 million. So we invested and spent $150 million to create $50 million, but we were growing really fast, and we got bought for $1 billion. Mobile iron, this is when we did the first $100 million. This is all the names of the employees. We burn almost $200 million. We were still burning money, and we went public, $100 million in revenue, $1.5 billion in market cap. So that's the kind of things that, but it's not applicable to every place in the world, because not every place in the world is willing to fail 9 times out of 10. But I think it's the only way to get crazy innovation, because people take risks. If you don't have that kind of stomach for failure, you're not going to take risks, and so you're not going to create the next Google, the next Snowflake, etc.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hello. So you founded startup, worked in big companies like Vmware, Mcafee. So what was the difference in marketing across these companies?
So the difference is that something is the same. The same is the storytelling part of marketing, which is the part that I love the most. Is the same. You need to be able to tell the story of the company, tell the story of how customers use the product, what is the value they're getting. That's kind of the same. And if you're good in marketing, people will give you credit. The part is very, very different because marketing is about telling the story and then creating business, creating leads, creating opportunities that salespeople close. So in small companies, you're sitting at the table with sales, and you're actually looking at every opportunity that comes in, you follow up. It's much more intense and much more aligned. In bigger companies, salespeople tend to do their own thing. They don't work with marketing as much. So for example, one of the problems confidentially that we have right now in my business, which is the cloud business at Vmware, is that we create a lot of opportunities, but salespeople don't follow up. Because they have so many relationships already, they don't really care about following up on leads and pursuing these new opportunities. So that's very, very frustrating. And between us, this is probably going to drive me out of marketing in big companies, because it's too frustrating. I like the storytelling part, but the fact that I cannot have a good alignment with sales, it may probably drive me out of marketing at some point.
Thank you.
And last question from Magomed.
Okay. Can you hear me? Hello, Vittorio.
Hi.
This question is a bit longer one than the previous ones, but it's very important for me. So, it seems to me that all of those advices and practices and principles that you have shared with us, they have been emerged from and cultivated in US, and particularly in Silicon Valley. Yep. And this environment is very special because there is huge established capital and a lot of money, and one of the most brilliant minds in the world. But the world is much bigger than US. So the first part of the question is, are those values, those principles and practices universal to different cultures and different countries, different societies? And if so, can you think about any strategy about how to cultivate and incorporate those practices in developing societies where there are not so much money and not so many people with high technical skills? Because I personally have no interest in coming to Silicon Valley. Even without me, there are plenty of brilliant people working there. But I want to make a change in my own home, and I want to build our own Silicon Valley, or at least fail trying so.
I love that. I absolutely love that. So I don't have the arrogance.
Let me interrupt you, and you would love even more if you knew that Magomed comes from the country which invented the focaccia al formaggio, even before Genova. Because
really?
From Dagestan and Georgia, where they make the cacciapuri with cheese, which is absolutely 100% identical to the focaccia al formaggio.
What is this?
It's North Caucasus, let's say, in general, because Dagestan is part of it, let's say, one of provinces, but Georgia is South Caucasus and we are the North Caucasus, so we share the border over the main Caucasian region.
Very, very cool. Okay, so first of all, I love that. I love that you want to do that there, and I don't have the arrogance to know how this would apply to other cultures, but this is what I can tell you. You are absolutely right, and I think I said it during my talk. this place is crazy. Silicon Valley is out of control. I mean, they have money, they have all this, but I do believe that forget about the money, forget about the growth, forget about the perks for engineers. I think if you focus on team value, right? I think those are universal. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter where you are, having a great team that you take care of, that you work to exploit so that they apply their strength and not try to fix their weaknesses. Try to provide air cover without micromanaging them. I think those are universal value. At the end of the day, focus on the team and the value of what you're trying to achieve, and focus on your customers. Those are things that you can apply in any culture, and you're going to do great with it. And I agree, as I said earlier, if you can build a great business that grows enough so that you can pay your employees, you can do good to the community around you. I think there's nothing better than that. It doesn't have to be the crazy growth with 9 companies out of 10 failing, because here it's fine. They fail, they find another job, they pay them better. But it's not like that everywhere. I understand that. And so my advice to you would be, try to take some of these things about how you build a team, how you invest in people. To me, those are universal value, because we're human beings, we're social animal, and we're motivated by at the end of the day, as I said, is always the person you work for and the ability to have an impact that motivates people, right? And not the money necessarily. So absolutely, I respect you for trying to do that somewhere else and do it with people and around people and trying to delight your customers, and that will be goodness for you. And then I'll learn from you how it works. We're going to talk about 10 years from now. You're going to tell me how you did it, and I'll learn from you.
Okay, thank you.
Great question. Love it.
Thank you so much for your time. It was really impressive, an incredible experience. As I said already last year, we look forward to having you here when the pandemic will be over. It's almost over. And again, thanks a lot.
And it was my pleasure. I root for all you guys. I see young faces, highly motivated people, diverse background, and I wish you the best in life. I wish you not necessarily just the money and all that, because at the end of the day, it's just I wish you to find to become very good at something, so that becomes your passion, so that can be engaged every day and do goodness for yourself, your family, and your community. Be good.